Nobody prepares you for the moment a doctor says the word autism about your own child. Not the books, not the pamphlets. In the next 20 minutes, we're going to walk through exactly what most parents feel after that moment. The grief nobody talks about, the guilt that isn't true, and the relief that's allowed to exist right alongside the fear. If you felt like you were failing at an emotion you didn't even have a name for, this is for you. The waiting room was quiet. Sarah held Michael's hand. Tom sat between them, lining up 3 crayons in a perfect row, humming softly. They didn't know yet that the next 10 minutes would change the words they used to describe their son forever. The doctor said it gently. Tom meets the criteria for autism spectrum disorder. Sarah nodded like she understood. She didn't. Not really. Not yet. Michael's jaw tightened. Tom kept lining up his crayons, completely unaware his whole world had just been named. Here's something almost every parent feels in that exact moment, and almost nobody says out loud. Relief and grief, arriving at the same time, in the same breath. Relief, because finally there's a reason. The stares in the grocery store, the meltdowns nobody understood, the sleepless nights of wondering. Suddenly, it has a name. Names feel like solid ground. Grief, because a name can also feel like a door closing. Not on your child, on a version of the future you'd been quietly picturing since before he was even born. Psychologists call this the loss of the imagined child. Not your real child, the one you'd built in your head. First birthdays, imagined conversations, a picture of normal you didn't even know you were holding on to. That night, Sarah sat on the edge of Tom's bed and watched him sleep. Same face, same soft breathing, same little boy who fell asleep every night holding a stuffed dinosaur. Nothing about him had changed. Only the word had. And that's the first thing every parent needs to hear. Clearly, without any softening, your child is exactly the same person they were yesterday. The diagnosis didn't change him. It only gave you a map. But maps don't erase the grief. Grief is not a sign you love your child less. It's a sign you loved an idea of the future, and that idea just had to be rewritten. In the days after, Sarah found herself crying in the car after drop-off, for no reason she could explain to anyone. This is normal. Researchers describe it as anticipatory grief, mourning a future before you've even lived it. Michael didn't cry. He went quiet instead, working longer hours, fixing things around the house that didn't need fixing. Grief doesn't look the same in every parent, and it doesn't look the same in every parent at the same time. One parent might need to talk, another might need to work with their hands. Neither is wrong. The danger isn't in how you grieve, it's in judging your partner for grieving differently than you do. Lily, at 7, asked the question kids always ask. Is Tom going to be okay? Sarah knelt down. Tom is already okay, she said. He's just going to need us to understand him a little differently. That answer took Sarah weeks to believe herself. Because right behind the grief came the second wave, the one almost every parent describes, the one that hurts the most to say out loud. Guilt. Did I do something during pregnancy? Did I not catch the signs early enough? Did I cause this? These questions loop at 2 a.m., uninvited, relentless, and almost always completely untrue. Here is what the science actually says. Autism is a difference in brain development, shaped by genetics and early neurological wiring. It is not caused by parenting style, vaccines, screen time, or anything a parent did or didn't do. That guilt spiral feels protective in a strange way. If it's your fault, then maybe you could have prevented it, which means maybe you can fix it. But autism isn't a mistake to fix. It's a way of being that needs support, not correction. Sarah spent an entire weekend researching. Tabs open everywhere. Therapies, statistics, forums, worst-case stories. This is called the information spiral, and almost every newly diagnosed family falls into it. It comes from a good place, wanting to do everything right immediately. But research without rest just becomes more fear of wearing a different outfit. At some point, you have to close the laptop and go be with your child. Michael found Tom in his room that Saturday, drawing, not talking, not needing to, just drawing, focused, calm, completely himself. Michael sat down next to him and picked up a crayon too. They didn't say anything for 20 minutes, and somehow that silence said more than any conversation could have. Tom looked up once, checked that his dad was still there, and kept drawing. This is something autism parents learn slowly, and it changes everything once it clicks. Connection doesn't always need words. Presence is its own language, and Tom had been speaking it his whole life. The third wave usually comes a few weeks in, and it's the quietest, loneliest one. Fear of the unknown. What will school be like? Will he have friends? Will people be kind to him? Sarah lay awake, picturing playgrounds where other kids walked away, birthday parties Tom wasn't invited to. Fear likes to write worst-case stories and hand them to you as if they're facts. But fear about the future is not the same as evidence about the future. Most of what keeps parents up at night hasn't happened yet and may never happen at all. What actually helps, researchers and therapists agree, isn't eliminating uncertainty. It's building support around it. Early intervention, a good school fit, a community that understands. Fear shrinks when it has somewhere useful to go. Isolation often follows fear. Sarah stopped mentioning playdates to her old group of mom friends. Not because they were unkind, but because she didn't know how to explain Tom in a way that didn't invite pity or advice she hadn't asked for. This is one of the most common and least talked about parts of an autism diagnosis. Parents quietly withdrawing. Not because they want to be alone, but because explaining feels exhausting. The turning point for Sarah came at an autism parent support group, almost by accident. A mother there said, "I stopped mourning the child I imagined the day I really started meeting the one I had." Sarah cried in that meeting, but it felt different this time. Not the grief from before. Something closer to relief, mixed with permission. Permission to stop comparing Tom to a future that was never actually his. Comparison is quietly one of the heaviest weights new autism parents carry. Comparing Tom to Lily at his age. Comparing Tom to the neighbor's son. Comparing this week's meltdown to last week's calm afternoon. Every comparison is a small tax on joy that's already available right now, in the child sitting in front of you. Letting go of the comparison doesn't mean lowering expectations. It means changing what you're measuring. Michael started noticing things he'd overlooked before. How Tom remembered the exact order of every book on his shelf. How he noticed when Lily was sad before anyone else did, even without saying a word about it. "He's not less than what I pictured," Michael told Sarah one night. "He's just paying attention to a different set of things than I was looking for." That shift from deficit to difference is one of the most important things a parent can learn. Autism isn't a smaller version of typical development. It's a different way the brain takes in and organizes the world. Tom started occupational therapy that spring. Sarah worried he'd resist it. Instead, he loved the swings, the textures, the structured play. Slowly, tools started appearing, ways to help him regulate before a meltdown built up. A weighted blanket for overwhelming afternoons. Noise-reducing headphones for the grocery store. A visual schedule taped to the fridge. Small tools, enormous difference. Support isn't about changing who Tom is, it's about making his world easier for him to move through. Lily became one of Tom's biggest translators. She learned that when he flapped his hands quickly, he was excited, not upset. When he went quiet and covered his ears, he needed space, not a lecture. Siblings often become fluent in a language parents are still learning. Lily didn't need a textbook. She just paid attention, the way kids naturally do when they love someone. 6 months after the diagnosis, Sarah looked back at her notes from that first week. Page after page of fear and questions. She barely recognized the mother who wrote them. Not because the hard days had stopped. They hadn't. Tom still had meltdowns. Bright lights still overwhelmed him. Loud restaurants were still a struggle. But something underneath all of it had steadied. Acceptance doesn't mean the hard parts disappear. It means you stop fighting reality and start building a life inside it. One that has room for both the hard days and the genuinely joyful ones. One evening, Tom ran up to Sarah, holding a drawing, grinning, eyes bright, flapping his hands the way he did when he was proud. It was a picture of their whole family, holding hands, crayon sun overhead. Sarah realized she hadn't thought about the imagined child in weeks. She wasn't grieving a future anymore. She was just living in one, with a real little boy who loved drawing, hated loud noises, and had the kindest heart in the house. If you're in the early weeks right now, still in the grief, still in the guilt, still scrolling forums at midnight, please hear this. What you're feeling has a name. It's common, and it does not last forever in this intensity. You are not failing your child by feeling sad. You are not causing harm by needing time. Grief and love are not opposites. Most days, they're sitting right next to each other at the same table. So here are 3 things that genuinely help in those early months. First, let both grief and relief exist at the same time, without judging either one. Second, resist the comparison trap. Measure your child against who they were last month, not against a version of typical that was never going to fit them anyway. Third, find your people. Other parents, a support group, even one friend who gets it without needing an explanation. Isolation makes every feeling heavier than it needs to be. Tom is still Tom, curious, kind, drawing quietly in the corner, communicating in his own way. The diagnosis didn't change your child. It just gave you a clearer map to help him thrive, and you're already finding your way. If this helped you feel less alone, subscribe for more evidence-based videos on autism parenting.